If you guys want to check and see if we're live on Twitter and YouTube, that'd be a big help.
Yeah, I'll dip in. Give me a minute.
Okay.
See if I can hop there. I'm just gonna put it on mute though in the background. Yeah, I got it.
Sweet. Are you guys able to hear me if you're on Twitter or on YouTube? Let me know.
Yeah, I've got it. It's just laggy. That's all.
Okay, sweet. I'm just waiting for like another minute for people to kind of jump in, and we're going to go over a bunch of updates on Evrmore, the Evrmore ecosystem, and probably some general thoughts and chat about potential ASICs on Ravencoin and how that might impact the decision we make over on Evrmore. But we'll wait maybe one more minute, see if more people show up. One thing that we'll want to check too is to make sure that everybody on Twitter and YouTube can hear you guys. We might need to adjust the settings.
I did hear myself through the stream. It is a little laggy, but it's still good.
Okay, you're not just hearing me over there.
No, I did hear myself.
Okay, sweet. Also, if you guys want to comment over on Twitter or YouTube, I should be able to see it in my streaming software. So at some point, if someone wants to create a comment over there, that'd be helpful. Be able to double check to make sure I can see if anybody's leaving comments over on any of those platforms. Okay, we'll kick it off. So, oh, perfect. Thanks for making the comment. Yep, looks like it's working. Okay, we'll kick it off. Bunch of updates for Evrmore since last week. First thing, we have now a new update from Hans, the lead dev that he put out this week. People are now able to play with testnet and some of the upcoming changes that are going to be included in the upcoming fork. And the main changes in this fork are asset tolls, where you'll be able to basically add a toll to any type of asset transaction. In addition to that, this upcoming fork will also have an additional IPFS field, as well as a bunch of kind of cleanups. And then we've also separated out reissuing from metadata updates. And so I expect that we'll have this testable in kind of a more general testnet test suite. I know that Hans recently posted kind of a link where people can go and play with this kind of on their own. And we should have this out for kind of anybody to play with on testnet. We now have testnet Explorer up and running. And that testnet Explorer will also be updating as new testnet binaries get created. And so basically sometime within the next probably few weeks to a month, we should be ready to update the main chain, provided everything goes well on testnet over the next few weeks. In addition to that, I recently talked to Blonde Frogs about the remintable code that will also be included in this upcoming fork. And there were a number of questions that he had for me. Questions like whether or not you'll be able to remint a unique asset, so like an NFT, and a few other questions. And we think that the easiest thing to do for now is to just not allow that. It can always be changed later in an additional upgrade, but for now, the simple and easy way to quickly implement these new features without further delay is to just omit the ability to remint unique assets. And then there are also questions surrounding how much it should cost to remint, and that's kind of an ongoing discussion at the moment. And it certainly is subject to change, and we can change that kind of all the way up to right before we actually upgrade the chain. My thinking right now is that it should probably cost less than reissuing. But like I said, it's subject to change. And my thinking behind that is that really the primary use case for this new remintable code is bridging. And when you burn an asset and you bridge to a different chain, or if you're already on a different chain and you're coming back to the Evrmore chain, it seems like that those incremental remints are not a full-blown reissue where you're changing the supply. And so for that reason, it seems like it should cost a lot less in terms of an EVR fee to do that reminting. But obviously, we want to hear from the rest of the community and see what you guys think. But that code's well underway, and I anticipate that it too will be ready for testnet in the coming days, weeks. And so we'll be able to kind of play with it and test it out as well. And then sometime in January, so over the next basically maybe 3-ish weeks, we'll have everything up on testnet. And then again, provided everything goes well, we'll be able to upgrade the main chain. Moving on to other updates. So obviously the Evrmore community came together. We had an initiative to get on CoinEx. I'm not sure if the funds have been sent to CoinEx or not. I'm sure that some of the guys here over on Discord can chime in the chat and let me know whether or not the raised funds have already been sent over there. But last week, all of the funds required in order to get on CoinEx were raised, and if they haven't already been sent over to CoinEx, they'll be sent over there shortly. And I know the community, including myself, is super excited to get on CoinEx, and so that's something that should be coming here in the very, very short future. Let's see. It's people are saying over here, test transactions have been sent, waiting on confirmation of receipt from CoinEx before sending the rest. So it sounds like we're basically just waiting on CoinEx to kind of confirm the test transaction, and then the community will send the rest over, and Evrmore should be listed on there. So that's a pretty cool thing. And yeah, it'll be good to have Evrmore on an additional exchange, and CoinEx, is a really, really good exchange, and we're really excited to have it on there. And then, in addition to those things, MetaStack, whom is the developer of Satori, which is kind of one of the bigger assets that's on the Evrmore blockchain, he and I were recently having some discussions about some of the underlying infrastructure that they've had to write, and it sparked some new ideas that at this stage are not very concrete, but I think they're particularly interesting, and it's something that we can discuss tonight if you guys are interested in discussing it further. But basically, anytime someone creates a new asset on Evrmore with the intent of doing some type of distributed compute, and in the case of Satori, it's like a decentralized AI predictions, it requires these projects to write peer-to-peer infrastructure, wallet infrastructure, and a lot of underlying code. And what we're thinking is that it might be possible to enhance Evrmore. And I don't know if it's Evrmore or if it's like the Magic Wallet, or maybe it's its own thing, or maybe it's like an enhancement of Electrum. But what you could do is you could provide all of the underlying infrastructure that these decentralized compute projects need. And then they could focus purely on whatever decentralized compute they're wanting to run. And I know that that's not a great description that most people are probably going to understand. So let's see if I can boil this down in a way that's easy to understand. So basically imagine as a project dev, a brand new interface that's like, it's just an app on your computer. So it's like when you download Evrmore Qt or when you download Electrum, it's just an app on your computer. And when you open it up, it does all the wallet things, and you can create assets, and you can do all the things that you typically do and currently do with these existing apps. But in this particular app that you're running on your computer, it could have what we're calling the Dapp store. And this Dapp store would show all of the different assets that have distributed compute. So it would show like Satori, and maybe there's another project on Evrmore that does like distributed storage, and maybe there's another one that does like some type of decentralized game. But you're gonna have to use your imagination here. So there are these different apps that have an asset on Evrmore, and you have this Dapp store where it shows the different types of nodes that you could run. And it comes pre-packaged with a built-in API that has the wallet and the underlying peer-to-peer code, so that projects don't have to write all of the underlying infrastructure individually. They'd be able to just tap into this peer-to-peer code and the wallet code, and they could just focus on distributing and writing purely their node software. And so basically what that would allow is this really easy ability to attach like your Docker container to your asset. And so, for example, with like Satori, they could have just created the Satori asset, and then directly on chain, they could have linked, hey, here's our Satori container. And inside that Satori container, it just automatically taps into the underlying peer-to-peer code, and it taps into the wallet. They wouldn't have to worry about writing any of that type of code. And then this would also be true of any other project that's wanting to build on Evrmore. It would just be super simple. Hey, here's my Docker container. And then from an end user perspective, you just download the Evrmore Qt, or maybe it's a Magic or an Electrum, and it just pops up and you can see kind of the Dapp store. And if you want to run Satori, you just double click it and it just pops up, and now you're running a full-blown Satori node. And any other project that builds on Evrmore, you'd be able to just double tap on it and it would just pop up and you can run whatever it is. And so we're calling it kind of the Dapp store. And it would just make it a lot easier for all of these distributed compute projects to build without having to really spend the time and money to continually duplicate peer-to-peer code, duplicate wallet code, and they could just focus on building their game or building the decentralized AI or whatever it is they're wanting to do in a distributed manner. And then one of the cool parts is that it really solves the distribution problem too, where it makes it easy for people to discover their projects, right? So you're just going to download the Evrmore software. And when you pull it up, you can just go to the Dapp store and you can pick whatever app you want to run. And you can see them all in there. It makes it easy for these projects to kind of get their name out there, as opposed to you just having to stumble upon like their Twitter post or their project randomly. And so anyways, this is kind of food for thought and some things we're thinking about, and maybe something we'll pursue after the upcoming upgrade. And there are a couple of other features that are in the pipeline for development, and so this would kind of come after those. So maybe this is something that would be built a number of months down the line. It's certainly something that we can discuss and explore more if people are interested. I think it's a really interesting idea personally, and I definitely think it makes it easier for people to develop these different types of distributed compute projects without having to rewrite a lot of the same code. I'm just going to check the chat over on Discord for just
While
one
you're
sec.
checking, that sounds like it's going to broaden the attack on Ethereum, which is great.
Yeah, I think that it does, and it keeps the parts that you want on chain, and the parts you don't want on chain off chain. You know, we really don't want every single node to have to run a Satori node. It's really just, if you're interested in Satori and you want to run it, you run it. But if you're interested in a different distributed compute project that's built on Evrmore, well, then you can choose to run it. And then you basically provide this nice API where if they want to save data locally to whomever is running kind of their node software, it makes it easy for them to save that data locally. And then they can communicate through this underlying peer-to-peer network and pass data back and forth with only their nodes. And then really the only thing you would keep on chain is maybe like a hash of their Docker container image, or maybe it's a link, kind of like an IPFS link or something, or message directly to their container. So it seems like it's quite scalable, where you're not keeping all of this data on chain. And then it also leaves up to the project developers the kind of whatever the consensus model is that they're wanting to use to distribute out their particular asset. Give me just one sec, guys. I'm going to read the chat over here on Discord for 1 second. Kink over on Discord saying, hey, this basically sounds similar to some discussions that they've had over on Ravencoin for a number of years. And then he asks a couple of questions that I can follow up on. Let's see. And then there are like a couple of other comments that I think are related, but I don't understand them as well. Let's see. Kink looks like he's linked to a couple things that I can. Yeah, I'll check that out. And then also Bearman Pig. Yeah, I'll have to look into that. He's saying that it sounds similar to using a cluster at a university with something called Slurm. I'm not familiar with that. Maybe you could link me to it. But yeah, I definitely think this is something that we should look more into, and we should discuss more. I definitely think it solves a number of issues and would definitely expand Evrmore's ability and kind of attack on Ethereum.
Is Slurm the Twitter thing that all the college kids are using these days? The crazy college kids?
It looks like Bearman Pig, he's saying Slurm is just a job scheduler. It's like a cron job type deal. Wait and see what he says. Yeah, so the Metastack and I are kind of exploring that, and in fact, Metastack was modifying Electrum over the course of the week, seeing if we could get, seeing if you could basically use the underlying peer-to-peer infrastructure of Electrum to subscribe to only certain types of data. And while that's kind of only like a test case, I believe he was able to get that to work. But then I went and I talked to Blonde Frogs about this, and he had a number of thoughts. And again, this is obviously very, very early. So something that we can discuss over the coming, probably 2 or so months before we would get to really taking something like this seriously. And again, I don't know if this is something that you would implement as like a part of Evrmore QT, or if you would just build it into like a Magic desktop, or if it's like a new Electrum. It depends on whether or not it runs kind of a full node locally, or if it's kind of a light thing. Looks like King's saying if you just integrated IPFS, lib, P2P, tech stack with Evrmore, it would do exactly what you need. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check some of that out. When I meet with Metastack again on Monday, I'm sure he and I will have some more fruitful discussions, and we can definitely check out anything that anybody links us to. Let's see. What else do I have in terms of updates? On the Magic front, which is the wallet that I am the founder of, we've had a number of things that we've been working on, and we basically have the main wallet. We have a Chrome extension that's basically ready, and then we also have a Satori pool that I developed over the last number of weeks. We've been testing that pool privately for basically like the last 2 weeks, and then really over like the last, I don't know, maybe a week and a half, I enhanced it so that it uses like way more servers, and we've continued to test that, and it works really, really well. And then basically the pool stuff is ready. So in terms of the actual app on the phone, all of that aspect now is fully written, and basically we are going to start testing the public version here shortly. So if you're a part of kind of our alpha, like our internal testing, you should see that here within the next number of days. And then if you are not, provided that goes well, over the next like week and a half, we'll put out a public update that will now include this new Satori pool. So we've been working hard on it, and we more or less have it basically ready, and we're going to start testing it internally and then release it publicly. And then on the Chrome extension front, there's still like a couple of things that we need to complete that I haven't had a chance to get to, mainly because we just want to make sure we finish one instead of continuing to work on multiple things and then never release them. So we should have pools basically out to the public as an update here shortly. And then there's like very minor things that are needed for the Chrome extension. And so I anticipate here within the next, let's say probably 2 weeks, the Chrome extension will be ready as well. So a couple updates coming here shortly. And then I have been writing a brand new backend for Magic. This brand new backend is coming along nicely. I think last week I said that I was like past the halfway mark, maybe kind of 2/3 of the way done. I've continued to work on it. Obviously, I took a couple of days off for the holidays. I've continued to work on that. And so it's like, I don't know, maybe 75% complete at this point. And so I know that there are a couple of like bugs where we display in the existing Android and iOS apps the like holding amount wrong. Mainly that's because we currently use a proprietary backend, and this new backend that I'm building is based on Electrum, and it will no longer have those holding problems. And in fact, I have all of the holdings aspect completed, and we are also going to be putting out a new update that starts to use this new backend, not in its entirety, but it will start to grab the holding amount from this new backend. And I have tested it thoroughly, and all of the holding amount, like small issues that we've had, are completely fixed. So expect to see that. Now, we probably won't put out like a new Android version or a new iOS version, mainly because they'll just start connecting to an updated backend server. So we'll probably put out an announcement for that, though, just letting people know that we now are starting to roll out that new backend server. And for those that aren't aware, the reason why we have been writing a new backend based on Electrum is so that Magic is much more easily extensible to other coins. So this will make it very, very easy to expand to Bitcoin and any other coin that's interested, whether it's like Telest AI, the Meow guys. I'm sure Neoxa might want to be on there. Bunch of different coins, and so this will just make it much, much easier. If any of these projects kind of spin up their own Electrum, we'll be able to just point to it, grab the data that we need, and then simply add it directly to the wallet. And so it will probably take me, I don't know, maybe like another 4 weeks probably to have the full backend done. But like I said, we're starting to pivot some of the features over to that new backend here shortly. And then an interesting topic that if any of you guys want to discuss, I'm happy to kind of share my thoughts. There have been some discussions surrounding a potential ASIC on Ravencoin from Bitmain. There were a number of tweets that were put out, but then subsequently they were asked to be deleted by Bitmain. And so from what it sounds like, there's potentially an ASIC that either has been built or is in the process of being built, or there's interest in building it for Kapow. And obviously Evrmore has a very similar mining algo. It's a ProgPow variant. It's a very, very slight tweak from Kapow. And so if an ASIC comes to fruition, it would most likely affect EverProgPow. And so the Evrmore community has a number of directions that we can go in, and we're certainly open for input, and I'm happy to share my thoughts and kind of see what your guys' thoughts are. Yeah,
I was curious. You indicated in the chat earlier today that whatever Ravencoin might do would influence this community's decision. I was just curious to hear what your kind of like mental flow chart looks like there, because I have a version of my own mental flow chart that mine doesn't change based off what Ravencoin does. So I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I think it depends in my mind on what they do. So the way that my flowchart looks in my mind is if Ravencoin chooses to embrace ASICs and work with Bitmain, it basically means at that point we can decide whether or not we want to ride on the coattails of that and not change anything. And I suppose there's some nuance aspects to it. So there were some discussions today on Twitter about if they're going to work with Bitmain. Oh God, It's a Girl had suggested that the best way to do that is really to kind of upgrade Kapow and tune it for the more recent GPUs. So probably like, I don't know, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 series GPUs, and then additionally work with Bitmain. And if they were to kind of fine tune for the last couple of generation of cards and work with Bitmain, the Bitmain ASIC would probably only have maybe like a 1.5x kind of improvement, or like a very slight improvement. Whereas if you keep Kapow how it is now and you work with Bitmain, then it seems like it could be more like a 2 to 3x improvement. And so basically, if the Ravencoin community chooses to work with Bitmain, I think that puts us in an interesting position where we could either choose to kind of follow what they do and ride that wave, or we could more heavily market that, no, we are the anti-ASIC chain. They went ASICs and they kind of fine-tuned for the latest generation and worked with Bitmain, whereas Evrmore is going to kind of remain the true and tried place for ASIC resistance. And I think in that case, it's a bit more of a marketing thing. Whereas if they choose to not work with Bitmain and they choose to say, no, we're definitely not going to embrace ASICs, then that essentially means either they're just going to do nothing and hope that Bitmain doesn't create the ASICs, or they're going to have to change their algo. And if they change their algo, we either can choose to change our algo as well, or we can take the risk that Bitmain is going to create an ASIC or has created an ASIC, and not change the algo. But in either case, I think it presents just a different set of options and a different angle from which you can market from. And, you really don't have to follow what Ravencoin does. And, let's say that they do change their algo to something else, and we also want to change our algo. It doesn't mean we have to change it to the same algo. And I think that there are basically just pros and cons to all of these different choices and sets of options. But I'm of the opinion that I'd kind of like to wait and see what they do first. But well, I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
Here's my thoughts. So, and this is kind of data driven too. So, like about a year ago, there was a lot of chatter going back and forth about some weird anomalies in just kind of the suggestion that ASICs were already online and running on the Raven chain. And in my opinion, I think that Bitmain already has ASICs up in the background. Probably not a whole lot, so it doesn't bring a whole lot of attention. But like guaranteed, this is what they've done in the past. And I think that they've already got the product. They already see that there's a strong community mining Ravencoin, and there's definitely money to be had. There's a market for it. And in my opinion, I think what they're going to do is basically same thing with like, what was it, Caspa? Same with the ASIC debacle that they've had is Bitmain will try and drive basically the hype of it. Like, yep, we're growing this, we're growing the chain. They've already been mining for, I would say, a year minimum, and hype the coin and dump the bags over time. That's my opinion, and they've definitely had that. I mean, you could look back. They've definitely been caught in the past with being able to have ASIC spun up and mining in the past and dumping bags. So that's my opinion.
I would second that, and
just me.
there's some people saying in the chat, and I've said it in there as well, but I'll say it in voice as well, that there's already been indication from the researcher who identified the X16R ASICs via nonce analysis. That was a few years ago. And this individual reached out to me a couple years ago to indicate that they had found some things in Bitmain firmware pointing at a Ravencoin Kaw-Pow ASIC. And I think most reasonable people would assume that Bitmain already has this equipment in existence, and that would influence the decision that quote we would make here. And I think a big consideration is to make is like, hey, what is the first principle of ASIC resistance? Why do you bother with it in the first place? And if you can agree that it is to maintain the distribution and decentralization of mining, and to give quote everyone a fair chance at obtaining coins at whatever power rate that they have, and keeping it competitive between various hardware types. So if you take it at face value that the one principle being that these do exist, and the second principle being that we all agree that ASIC resistance mattered in the first place, then I think it's a really serious consideration that needs to be made, and that we probably ought to make it independent of how a chain like Ravencoin or any of the something like 30 Kaw-Pow chains might decide to make or not. I'm not going to die on that hill per se, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't stand my ground on that.
Were you guys surprised with the response from the Ravencoin community so far? I mean, mainly I've just read the NAST as well as comments on Twitter, but they were kind of, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of people were either in support of it or what were your guys' take? I was a bit more surprised to see that.
I've definitely been surprised of it, especially even seemed like Mango was supportive of it, and when you look at Ravencoin, the entire ethos behind Ravencoin was that it was ASIC resistant, and it's like, come on, now we're just going to give in because everybody has a bunch of bags. is that the hope of what Ravencoin's become? Is just somebody pump our bags and offload? I mean, that's I don't know. Hopefully someone can prove me wrong, but that's what I see it as at least at face value.
And to jump off of that, it just kind of seems like a false promise that they'd pump your bag if again, I'm working from the assumption, and I think it's a fair one, that these have existed for a year or two or maybe even 3, that the price suppression has already happened. And if they were going to pump your bags for you, I think that notion belies a misunderstanding of how proof of work, what the minimum cost that someone would sell and what their incentives to sell even are. And if you have an ASIC, your minimum cost to sell is driven lower by the efficiencies that you achieve, and your incentive to sell increases because you've put all this R&D into this equipment. So I just think that these things are, they're about to blow the dust off of them after using them for a while, and sell them to you like they're new, like they have done with, they've got a history of that. And I think some other people here know that better than I do, that, you buy new Bitmain equipment and it ain't new.
Yep. It's been running for at least a year minimum.
Yeah, what do you think?
And furthermore, it would also maybe indicate. Sorry, I'll get off mic after this. One final point that I've got to make is that I think historically the cycle is, hey, we ROI'd, so we've got our next gen that's coming out of the foundries, so buy this previous gen.
And at face value, you have to look at it like Bitmain is a company. So what are they looking at that's going to benefit them? That's the way that you have to look at this entire situation.
What do you guys think the likelihood is of them actually working with Bitmain and implementing on Ravencoin? Like, would you be surprised at this point?
I really don't know. I don't know.
Hard to say.
It's hard to say because I mean, like, it's like the project is kind of radio silence. I mean, it is. It's kind of just floating out there. Like that's the best way to describe it. Like there's not really one or two people that are running the show. It's kind of like over the last couple of years, like it is like Ravencoin has become what it's become, and that's kind of where Evrmore has kind of spawned from, because what Ravencoin is, it is what it is, and a lot of people have been driven to Evrmore because that's where we're at. I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
you
they
know,
need developers to combat it? I mean, they don't even have developers, so how would they even combat it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So think about it. The last available release was the newest release was 4.6.1 in August of 2022, which I don't think was even a consensus change. So if I'm not mistaken, and anyone feel free to correct me here, the last consensus change was actually Kaw. So there actually hasn't been, you know, a material functional update to the code base in 4 years. Was Kaw 4 years ago? And you know, this chain has the advantage of being under active development. You're already talking about pushing new code, and if you can safely, if you agree that there's an existential threat posed by ASICs or just even some kind of threat, and you're already pushing new code like asset tools and things like that, like it you know, if it's trivial to change the algorithm without borking anything else, then it seems to me that's, you know, it seems pretty straightforward.
yeah, it's definitely something that we could get on the roadmap. You know, if there's something that is existential and something that's needed, I would argue we probably wouldn't do it in the upcoming fork, mainly because that's just so near. But certainly as the next upgrade, it could absolutely take precedence in the, you know, the next 2 months or whatever.
And I think it's interesting timing also. So like if this is the fact, like if we have seen some ASICs go online within the past like year, 2 years, like maybe the olive branch getting thrown out there, because there's like, I don't know if you've noticed, like the that post got deleted also. So, and it wasn't like a Bitmain reaching over like just a regular X post. It was a DM, and then JRoz put it out via Twitter as like a general, like, hey, this is what's going on, and then they got asked to be deleted. So obviously there's got to be some context behind that. So in my opinion, I think if we let's say that they've been mining with ASICs for the last year or 2 years, probably that ROI period might not be 100%, but if they've had ASICs online and then they throw that olive branch over, like they've probably reached about that point that they've made a good chunk of change, and seeing where the rest can go.
Yeah, and in the event that we need to either change the existing algorithm or switch to a different algo, I don't know what those tweaks would be. I don't know what the other algo would be. I haven't spent any time in the last couple of years thinking about ASIC resistance and kind of keeping up with the latest research and maybe what some other chains have implemented. Have you guys kept up with that at all, or?
It's definitely going to take some time to research and like really make sure that we're taking the time to actually put it like do some testing on it. I know there was another coin, I forget who it was, and I'll send you a DM later who actually developed it. But there was a coin that wasn't like super popular, but they did um, basically create a throttle. So like if there was a chance that an ASIC was developed, you could only hit max like a max point. And so it basically, no matter what, even if you were hitting above this threshold, you were throttled down. So it's almost like a governor. Um, let me dig around and see if I can find that. But I think it is something that we definitely look at, even if we just keep in our back pocket, because it seems like, in my opinion, I think there's already ASICs out there.
Yeah, I don't think Jaros would put something out like this just haphazardly. Like he Jaros is a guy that's been around for
Yeah,
a
he
long,
usually
long time.
crosses his T's and
Yeah.
dots his I's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it were just mere speculation, I don't think he would put something out like this. I'm just reading the chat over on Discord. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see again what the Ravencoin community does, but from this discussion, it definitely sounds like that we're kind of in consensus that, hey, it's pretty likely that these things exist, they've been around, and that Evrmore needs to start researching the best way to mitigate ASICs on the ProgPow variants and how to best mitigate that. I'll spend some more time thinking about this and talking to a number of different people and reaching out, and I'll have more of an update with the discussions that I have over the next week with a number of different people. I definitely think this is something that we should keep as an ongoing topic for the next number of weeks. And I'll talk to some of the other devs too and see what they think and if they've kind of kept up with the latest algos and that type of stuff. So definitely food for thought and something that we need to combat.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one more point here. I can put you in touch with the researcher who informed me of this firmware a couple of years ago. And I think, I mentioned like my mental flow chart at the beginning of this conversation. I didn't share what mine is. And I think the first point has to be somehow identifying what, if any, functionality this ASIC has on EverProgPow. If it's really, really, a cemented ASIC, it might not be able to point at this chain whatsoever. So we wouldn't want to overreact. But you prove or disprove that it can, and then understand its efficiency advantage. And if that efficiency advantage is lost in switching chains, if it even can, then sure, this might be a bit of a witch hunt. Sorry, bitch of a witch hunt. A bit of a witch hunt. So that's where my flow chart is at. It's like, hey, go to your first principles and say, hey, does it have a threat? Does it even work? If it does, then how much more efficient is it than a GPU? Are we worried about that? And then sure, you choose your action. Maybe easier said than done to actually get your hands on this or find someone who has one and point it at Evrmore and so on. But that's kind of where my head is at. And I just wanted to mention it as we closed out this topic.
Yeah, based on what I'm seeing, people are throwing around kind of a 2-3x type number, and others are somewhat doubtful of that. And yeah, it definitely is something that we need to hammer out actual details on and first principles over the next coming number of weeks, and then basically just make a decision as a community at that point. Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, I kind of laid out my mental model. Obviously, the Evrmore fork of Ravencoin, we essentially stuck with Kapow, but depending upon what they do, we certainly don't have to follow what they do, and we also don't have to stick to the same type of variant if we end up going down a route where we change algos or make tweaks. But yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see what they do, and then we'll keep this as a discussion for the future number of weeks and probably month or more until we decide something needs to be done, or if it's not as much of a threat as is, I guess, currently being thrown around. Just checking the chat. Yeah, basically, most of the people in the chat are echoing similar thoughts to what everybody's been saying. What other topics do you guys have? Do you want to chat about anything else? Does anybody have any questions about Evrmore? Anything in the ecosystem? Happy to answer any questions. If you're not on Discord via audio, you can certainly throw a comment in on Twitter or YouTube. But anybody have any questions, other topics you want to chat about?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
From me.
Well, thank you to you as well.
Yeah.
To everyone else too.
I saw so there's there's like a locally running version of Evrmore for Ubuntu that has asset tools working right now. Did you guys already talk about that, or did I miss that?
I briefly mentioned it at the start, but we didn't really go into detail. I just said that Hans had put out a link where people can kind of play with it. But over the next week or so, we should have it kind of more testable in a general manner on testnet. But for now, you can kind of jump into the link that Hans had posted if you want to start playing with it.
Has anyone messed with it yet? I've got all Windows machines here. I gotta put Ubuntu on something.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem. Windows.
Just asking the chat. I was asking the chat.
No.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. Reg test only. Yeah. I don't think many people have played with it, and I saw that Hans had posted that it was either in the testnet channel on the Evrmore Discord or under development. So I'm guessing it probably didn't get a ton of traction. But I think if I were to guess, that was kind of why he posted it there. Say it again.
I saw it on X yesterday.
Oh, okay. Someone posted it on X. All right. Did
Evrmore official posted it?
Oh, okay. So the main account. Awesome. Yeah.
So is that totally standalone? It's like simulated blockchain?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. It'll give you the correct response if you put a request in.
Yep. Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. A couple people in the chat here on Discord have asked, hey, when bridge? Okay, so I do have an update on it. So for those that don't know, I have been in the process of setting up some international entities that will be using the remintable code that currently is under development and will be included in an upcoming upgrade. I have now fully set up those entities. So kind of last week, I was in the process of that. I've now been working more on it over the past week, and those entities are now set up. So basically, the bridge code on the ETH side is basically ready. I'm just waiting for the remintable code to be completed and then added on testnet, and then obviously subsequently on mainnet. And then in the next, month and a half, 2 months, we'll start testing it and then make it publicly available as a bridge on Evrmore. And it's a fully non-custodial bridge, which is very different from how all of these other centralized bridges work. So it's quite unique and interesting, and it'll be coming to Evrmore here shortly in the coming new year. Let's see. Yeah, Wembridge. What else you guys got? Got other topics you want to chat about? Any questions? If nobody else has anything else, maybe we'll
Really, I've got a really pressing question. When will the PicBit image get added to Magic Wallet? I know everyone's really
yes.
thinking about it.
Yes, so I apologize. You know what? I'll make a point to do that tomorrow. I
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
That's
Yeah.
my Christmas present.
That's your Christmas present. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'll make a note here, and I'll make sure that we get that submitted tomorrow. Anybody else?
The
I put in.
sorry,
I put in an application. I was gonna say I put in an application for the Nexa Asset Portal for Dark Meme. So someday there may be like a liquidity pool, and like they may support Evermore and Evermore assets eventually. Right now, he's like working on like a Nexa Raven pair, but he had like said previously when I brought it up to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, we're like syncing a wallet. Like we'll do that eventually." So there will be like another asset exchange. I don't know if he'll do like a Raven Ever pair or whatever, but there'll be some shit going on over there eventually. Hopefully, I can get There's like 5 guys in China who really want Dark Meme to be listed somewhere. So I was like, all right, well, here we go. We'll try this.
Well, Dark Meme's awesome. It should be listed somewhere.
I mean, like they're in my like PMs, like, hey, like what's the update? Like, what's going on? I'm like a mailing list. You can like go to the mailing list for like updates. I'm like, oh, okay, all right. But I did tell them that I put the application, and I figure once that's if I can get that listed there, I'll just change the form link to a link to their portal, and people can trade the Dark Meme pool.
Do you by chance put a tweet out about that?
I haven't put anything out. Dark Meme doesn't really have any like social. I was hoping like someone else eventually does that stuff for it, but like if not, I can like do it. But I've been doing it through the Birdhouse, so like every like anytime I do anything from like for, like Dark Meme, I do it through the Birdhouse account. I mean, it has a channel in the server, but but yeah, I haven't. Once they kind of like with Jackdaw, they just kind of were like, we're listing Jackdaw. I was like, okay, like that's cool. Like, you know, you didn't tell me, but that's fine. Like, I'm down with it. So like, they'll probably do the same for Dark Meme, so I'll hopefully catch up with it a little bit. But that's fine. I assume that they'll want to list a Tory, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really talk to them at all. I know that there are a few people that are a part of the Evrmore community that I think are in close contact with them, and I think something with Evrmore will happen at some point. I know that they initially launched or were planning on implementing like a Raven pair and some of the Raven assets, and obviously they've listed some of the Raven stuff, and so it'd be awesome to see them obviously list some of the EVR stuff as well.
Yeah, I followed up with them, and I'll keep following up with them. I'll see if I can get it listed. I just don't want to have to write a white paper for it.
Just submit the first issue as the white paper.
I could. I'd have to go back and be like, here's 6 newsletters instead.
Yeah.
I think
Just
I
take
put in
all
there. He
6.
had like a thing to put in there, and I was like, this goes against the ethos of having limited forward-facing information for the Dark Meme project.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, just
we'll see if
grab
that
all
works.
6. Grab all 6, copy paste them into a Word doc, and then at the top just put white paper and then send it to them.
Dude, I'm almost like, I told him, I was like, I can actually like give you some for this one, because like with Jackdaw, I was like, I don't have any to like give you. Like, you're gonna have to fucking figure it out. And so like, as far as his like liquidity pools and shit were concerned, it was like, yeah, good luck. But like, I have like 600 or 400,000 dark meme left or something like that, which is ridiculous because there's like billions. There's one dude who ended up with like 12% of the supply. I think that's the guy who keeps messaging me on Discord.
Oh, that's crazy. I've got a decent amount.
Well, I did
but
3
not
dark
that
meme
much.
billionaire lotteries through the mailing list.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like through the mailing list there, you can get $1 billion. Otherwise, like you ended up with like some variation of like leader boobies.
Yeah, I snagged a decent amount myself, but I don't think I'm up there on the leaderboard.
There's that one guy who he won like the last, I think it was the last underground auction or whatever, and he won it. He bid like 9 million or whatever, and at the end he was like, I hope there's some utility. I was like, dude, what? Yeah, me too. Good luck.
Yep, here you go.
You just did the utility, man. Like you utilized it. Great job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no, it would be cool to see it get like some some exchange meme coin status.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, I'll jump on there. Trade a little bit.
Yeah, be fun. I still have I actually have the admin asset for that one, so I could like do other shit with it. Like Jackdaw, I can't do anything with it. I burn the admin asset for it. So like that one's just like, it's just a token. But like I could do like, I mean, I already have done sub assets. Like all the NFTs for Dark Meme were done under a sub asset.
Yeah, it's like I had told you in the beginning. I love the concept. I like it. It's like in the first couple of auctions, like I jumped in there, but then I felt like I wanted every single one and then kept it. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll let other people kind of play around and have fun too.
That's why I wanted to fuck around with the asset tolls, because I wasn't quite sure how, like, does it work? Is it a new asset type off of, see, if you have the admin asset, you can create an asset tolled asset, or can any asset type have a toll attached to it? And like obviously the 2 IPFS thing is a little more straightforward, but I'm curious like what can be done with that too at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But like,
so the way that it works is it's you can think of it like additional metadata. It's like a Boolean flag and an amount. So you can basically say, hey, this asset now has a toll, and anytime it's transferred from address to address, it has to pay whomever, whatever you list as the payable address, the pay to address, the amount that you've chosen. And so it's not in and of itself a new asset. It applies to all assets. You can decide to set a toll or to just keep it by default toll-less.
so it can be done with existing assets?
It depends. Unfortunately, that's the it depends. So
I assume not. I assume not.
Yeah, it depends on whether or not you've flagged like reissuable and certain existing properties.
Yeah, most of the shit I make is not reissuable.
Yeah. So in that case, no, you wouldn't be able to after the fact add a toll.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah. Yep. So if you've so basically what we had to do is we had to break it into, hey, assets going forward and then backwards compatibility with all existing assets. And then depending upon the different properties you've chosen for existing assets, that determines whether or not you can change this metadata.
Yeah. I might have made but I can make reissuable sub assets for things. Yeah, that's interesting.
And then that's also the
I don't know
case
what
of
the
this,
before though.
the second IPFS field. There's kind of now a mutable one and an immutable one, and then it kind of depends like on what you've previously set in a backwards compatible way. So
Yeah, you can put a transaction ID in there too. I still don't really get like the whole. I just forget like record keeping, like why people put transaction IDs in memos. Like I thought they were for like exchange verification, like initially. Like I think like there are some exchanges that would use memos for like I said, transaction verification, but
I know that Satori uses
interesting.
those when they do distributions, like when they issue out to all of their different nodes, they put like specific information in there so that after the fact, if you went back and you were to kind of audit things, you'd be able to have some information surrounding why that transaction went out and that type of thing.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you this, but whatever you did with Moontree, you could write messages in the memo field.
That's
and it
right.
would like send like Pipe and I sent messages back and forth, and I was like, "What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you never even talked about it. You're just like, yeah, you could." It's like, how come you never talked about that?
I don't know. I just
because memo fields are supposed to be limited to like a 32-bit string, and it like has to be a fucking IPFS or like OIP.
That's right.
Like heck hash, but not in Moontree.
Yeah, because there's different ways to do it. That's why. And we implemented all the ways. And then we gave everyone the options to do all the things.
Yeah, you gotta put that shit back in Magic though, because it's and then like talk about it. Because it's actually pretty dope.
The backend supports it still. Like the backend, if we were to just put that into the GUI, like it totally is supported.
Yeah, you should do that.
Yeah. I can put it on the roadmap. We can add it back in there, and then directly inside of Magic, you'll be able to add messages to transactions.
I'll talk about it on my things and make a little video being like, check this out. You can do you can do actual like messages. It doesn't have to be, an IPFS hash. It can be anything.
Yeah, for sure. I can't remember. There is like some limitation on it, but it's like 3,000 characters or something. It's like way more.
Probably still 32-bit.
It might be. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it certainly is like longer than just like a hash.
I'm glad I got to talk to you about that, because that's one of those things that, like I said, Pipe and I did that like a while ago, and I was like, "That's what? It's not supposed to be able to do that, as far as I remember." Because I don't think you can't do that in Core.
Technically you can. They don't give you like a nice easy way to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yep. It's like
it's like everything
technically
else.
It's supported, but yeah.
Kind of like everything else. Like no, see, that's different though. That's the broadcast thing is for the actual like message channel assets though, right? Like that watches the message channel asset, and then when you send the message channel asset to yourself with the memo, it broadcasts the memo, right?
Yeah, that definitely is different. Yeah. Yep.
Fucking whack ass thing that is, dude. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Oh, damn it. We just got demonetized.
Sorry.
I'm just playing. That's it for making money off this. Come on.
I get it. Like it's just so you can talk to all your shareholders, and yeah, I get it. It's fun.
Yeah. I get it.
But it's like it's weird. It's a weird way. I mean, it's be better to call that like a subscription. You could have like a subscription token, because that's kind of like what it is. And that's what people don't realize. Most of that stuff works in Electrum. It doesn't. For some reason, Hans, I forget why. It was like security or something. He forked like an earlier version of it for Evrmore, so it doesn't have the messaging, but Core does. Like you can make the messaging assets.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. For everybody that doesn't know that's listening, there are a number of features that Evrmore has that are not utilized a ton, but they technically are there, and you can use them. One of those definitely is messaging. There's a number of different ways to do that, and we provided all of those in an older wallet that we built called Moontree, and we can certainly bring back some of those features into Magic. Any other topics that people have? Any other questions? Happy to answer anything. Chat about anything basically related to Evrmore, broader ecosystem. Well, if nobody has anything else, I think we'll call it there at an hour and 10 minutes, and I'll chat with you guys throughout the week, and I look forward to jumping back on next Thursday, 8 o'clock. So thanks a million, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks.